Louisiana's capital city, Baton Rouge, with a population of over 800,000 and growing, is a major medical research and industrial center of the American South. This is the home of the state's largest and most comprehensive cancer center. Mary Bird Perkins, Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Center's medical staff includes some of the top specialists in the country working to help patients beat cancer. Now, a behind-the-scenes look into the lives of cancer survivors and the advanced care improving the quality of their lives. This is Louisiana Med.
Cancer is by far and away the most feared human disease. When you hear those words, you have cancer, it's something that just resonates in a way that, unless you've ever heard those words, you can't understand it. Every patient that walks through the cancer center's doors is different. They're individuals. You can't treat human disease in a category. You have to treat the human disease of the individual. Every single patient, when you talk with them, will tell you their story, and they will tell you their story about how they've gone through the journey and the people who helped them along the way, and it's a different story every time.
I think you would find from all of our staff, they see the person first. They look in their eyes and they get to know them first, knowing that they're there to get treatment for a disease that is very life-threatening oftentimes and very scary, but that connection to treating them as a person that just happens to have cancer is a huge philosophy here at our cancer center.
My name is Juan Quiet and I'm a cancer survivor.
I am Christy Mumphrey, a cancer survivor.
My name is Gary Atkins, and I am a cancer survivor.
Here at our cancer center, our staff consider patients to be survivors at the very moment they are diagnosed.
Right around when football season started, it seems like every year I get a little sinus infection, a sore throat. So I went to a little walk-in clinic there in Abbeville, and sure enough, I had a sinus infection. They gave me some shots and some antibiotics, and within 3 or 4 days, it was gone, completely gone. So it must have been maybe 2 or 3 days later, I woke up one morning and I just kind of felt a little lump or a little knot on my throat, and I said, well, that don't seem normal. So I went back to the same guy. He sent me to an ENT, and then that's when it was discovered that I had some malignant damage up in the neck area, and then later we found out that it was after a couple of biopsies that it was on the tonsil. So
Mr. Atkins has a squamous cell of the tonsil, and it's a pretty confined mass within the tonsil, but it's spread to his neck, to a conglomerate of lymph nodes in the upper neck area.
People think about the tonsils as sort of an afterthought. It's not much of an organ if you think about it. It's not very big, it's not that important, and everybody knows that your tonsils can be removed without any trouble in most cases, and that's almost a natural part of many people's health history. On the other hand, when you study the tonsil, you realize the tonsil is deeply connected to a lot of important things. So the tonsil sits with attachments to your palate, which has to do with speaking and swallowing and breathing. It attaches to the base of your tongue, which has to do with speaking and swallowing and breathing. It attaches to the back of your throat, which has to do with speaking and swallowing and breathing. So when a patient has a cancer in that area, the treatment of that kind of cancer is usually not a simple tonsillectomy.
Once I got diagnosed, I had to go through that cancer word, and it really kind of floored me, to be honest. Your life is just kind of out of whack, if you will. I've been routine oriented for so long. I'm a coach and a teacher. I've got to be, when that bell rings, I have to be there. Well, I'm not there now, and so it throws everything off. But then once you get over that, all that, that whammy, then you start picking yourself up and you start figuring out, what I have to do to get well.
When I first met Coach Atkins, he was in what I think in my head is the shock period, where, our brain I think it's a protective factor where when our world is dropped from underneath us, it just tends to fall to the next thing. So one of his first comments to me was, I need to figure out how I'm going to coach this season. How do I get to two-a-day practices and coming back and forth to Baton Rouge? It takes a while sometimes for that process to happen where we realize, no, this is cancer and it's serious and our life has changed.
Hey guys.
I know it's good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all?
I'm doing great.
Gotcha.
How's your week?
It was great. Very
Anything
good.
new?
No, my hands.
Christy is a 34-year-old woman who has what we call clinical stage 2B breast cancer. Christy was diagnosed at a very young age, and she found the mass herself.
I just doing natural, normal movement. I could tell something was tender on the right side of my body. So I pressed against it and felt a lump, a mass in my breast.
Her doctor hopped on it really quickly and sent her to her breast surgeon, Dr. Haley. And then Dr. Haley had me see her because he thought that she was a good candidate to do chemotherapy before surgery, and that's what she's doing right now. But she had not had a mammogram performed because she's not even 35 years old yet.
When I was diagnosed, Dr. Haley told me it was stage 2. Then once I had the port put in, and they also did a lymph node biopsy at that time, and we found out it was in my lymph nodes. That made me stage 2B. So the chemo had to be a little more aggressive than we had originally planned.
The fact that her cancer is what we call triple negative, it's estrogen receptor negative, and so those women are typically treated with chemotherapy anyway. And so a lot of oncologists these days, myself included, believe if you need to do chemotherapy anyway, it's best to do it sooner versus later. And so we decided to do it first before her surgery.
Initially telling my children, they were full of questions, like, how did this happen? What, is it contagious? My 10-year-old thought that it was possibly contagious, that he could get it too, and he was afraid to be around me. My daughter's older and, a little bit more mature, and so she just kind of took it all in, and she knew that it meant I was going to be bald and I was going to have my breast removed, and she understood all of that. I think for my son, the biggest part was when my hair started to come out, and we decided to shave my head. That for him was a wake-up call. Like, it made him see that the illness that is on the inside is now evident on the outside. And so that was a major thing for him. That made him very sad. He didn't want to be around me in the beginning. That was hard. He said it scared him to look at me like that. But he's adjusted to it now. So they both have adjusted, and they accept it, and it's not a big deal anymore.
Why her? She is the healthy one in the family. She jogs every day, goes to the gym 3 times a week, runs marathons.
She likes to get out and go. She's very active. She hasn't been quite as active as she usually has. She's been upset that she hasn't been able to run as much as she used to.
I started running this week.
Okay.
What'd you think about that?
I would definitely take it easy.
I was very tired.
Yeah.
By Thursday, I was wiped. I ran Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I was wiped out by Thursday.
How far did you run?
Not far. Like, I would run, not whereas compared to before. I'd run like a quarter of a mile, then walk a quarter of a mile, run a quarter of a mile. I did that for like 3.5 miles Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I think that's okay. Just listen to your body and respect it, I probably wouldn't do anything aggressive like trying to pick up pace or anything like that. I definitely would mix it up with the walking like you talk about.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay.
Coming up, hear from Coach Atkins and Christy as they undergo chemotherapy. This is Louisiana Med.
Thank you, tears. You washed away my fear. Thank you, fear. You gave me courage. Thank you, courage. You helped me fight cancer, which makes me who I am today.
Good morning, class.
Mary Bird Perkins, Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Center. Live courageously.
Every year at Mary Bird Perkins Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Center, we'll see about 3,000, a little over 3,000 newly diagnosed cancer patients. And there are thousands of patients who come back every year for follow-up visits and programs. So on any given day, Monday through Friday, we're seeing about 450, 500 patients are visiting the cancer center to see a physician, receive a treatment, have a scan, have lab work, and all of those dynamics are going on every single day.
When you receive a diagnosis of cancer, there are so many feelings that go through a patient's mind that are overwhelming. Patients who have cancer prefer to have all of their services in one location. And there's a simple answer why. They want everything in one location so they don't have to navigate an entire city to get the different components of care that they need. So with intention, this cancer center was designed to have everything in it.
We recently wrapped up a renovation and expansion, and today it's 140,000 square feet of outpatient cancer care space connected to the largest community hospital in Louisiana.
We have imaging, specially designed for cancer patients. We have lab. We have medical oncology, radiation oncology, research, infusion, all going through one door.
We're making the experience seamless for them. It was the dream many years ago in a strategic plan. This is what we envisioned.
And it's just it's an amazing resource for patients.
Mr. Atkins is here for his second chemo treatment. He gets cisplatin. He gets Aloxi for his nausea. He gets 2 types of nausea medicine before we start his chemo. His chemo will take about an hour. We give pre-meds before chemo to help prevent nausea as opposed to try to treat the nausea after it happens, after chemotherapy.
The first thing the pharmacist does when they receive the order is to make sure everything is appropriate on the order, as far as the regimen, the dose. Then when the pharmacist gets it in the queue in the back, they'll also see the same scan that we saw to make sure that it was put in properly there. Then when it's finished preparing in that room, it comes back out for a final verification on our dosage screen to make sure it was prepared properly. But we also have to provide a product for the patient that's very sterile for them. So these rooms are very, very regulated as far as temperature, humidities, pressures, airflow. So that product back there comes out safest manner possible.
I've been diagnosed with tonsil cancer, so that's where it's at, and that's what it is, and that's what we're treating as we speak. You know, I had to go tell my principal and go tell my football team, and obviously tell my family. So that was pretty tough, but telling my son was the hardest one because I just didn't want him to know. But then I said, well, I gotta tell him because I've told everybody else. So one day I just picked the phone up and called him and told him exactly what was going on. And he handled it very well. I have to admit, he handled it very well. He was a trooper.
We have a rich team of rehabilitative therapists. So, you know, surgeons like to think that they're the most important players on the team, of course. We love what we do, but we know that surgery alone doesn't get people well. It takes an expert team of nursing professionals. It takes a team of speech and swallowing professionals. It takes a team of respiratory therapists, for example. And it oftentimes takes a team of very dedicated therapists to help people relearn the very complex functions of how to speak, how to swallow, and how to breathe naturally again.
Never heard of a swallow coach before, but you know, she's been really good. The exercises that she teaches is to keep that saliva going, keep that swallowing going, and keep those muscles strengthened. It's like anything else. Atrophy sets in if you don't use those muscles.
Unfortunately, radiation takes a little bit of quality of life away temporarily, but we help them to, you know, come up with a plan, come up with an exercise routine so that he can keep his muscles as strong as they can stay while he's going through the treatment, despite the fact that the treatment might weaken the muscles temporarily.
Our group has been responsible for the discovery of a number of things that have really changed the way that head and neck cancer is treated. For example, just a few years ago, it was very common for patients who had head and neck cancer to automatically get a feeding tube in the stomach. And we thought in those days that the feeding tube in the stomach would relieve the symptoms and the discomfort of having to swallow during radiation and chemotherapy and recovery from surgery. What we found was that those people who had feeding tubes throughout their treatment actually forgot how to swallow and were dependent for life or for a long time on their feeding tubes. And our team of speech and swallowing therapists and laryngologists have produced a manuscript that was published in the literature and cited now many times over for making a major difference in the way that oncologists, both surgical and non-surgical oncologists, think about how to treat head and neck cancer.
Every patient is evaluated for the potential participation in a clinical trial, and ultimately our goal is that we will have a clinical trial available for every patient who walks through our doors so that we can continue to increase the access to clinical trials and answer those large questions in oncology that still exist. What patients with cancer need to understand about clinical trials is that there is no such thing in large part of a placebo-based approach. That would be unethical. We don't do trials in oncology that compare a trial form of treatment to no therapy for large part. What we're doing in oncology is asking, how can we treat someone with the current approach to care, plus maybe something else, compared to the current standard of care, to see if we can make the current standard of care even better. So I actually look at oncology trials as being, could we make what we know is acceptable even better?
When I first went to see Dr. Spell, and I knew that I was going to be having to do chemo, he filled me in on the side effects, what to expect, how long the treatments were going to be, and he also told me that I was young and healthy, and there was no reason to think that I wasn't going to make it through, and that I wasn't, that I would have minimal side effects. Nothing major happened the first day of treatment. I did get nauseous that evening. But about 3 to 5 days after the treatment, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was, I felt more exhausted than I've ever felt in my life, nauseous. To turn your head just made me dizzy and off balance if I turned too quickly. It was a very hard first couple of weeks until I got used to that. My team of physicians have all stated not to let the cancer take over your life, that keep on living. You can do as much as you feel like doing. Don't let it stop you. My husband and I like to hike and canoe, camp, all those outdoor activities, kickball, play with our kids. We do a lot of things, and the doctors have all said, you are allowed to do whatever you feel like doing. Don't let it stop you. Don't let it keep you from living. We're involved in he's our Cub Scout master for my son, and I'm a committee member for the Cub Scouts. And our daughter is a Venture Scout. It's a co-ed group for scouting, and he is one of the advisors for the Ventures. We stay busy with all that kind of stuff.
They have lives besides the chemotherapy. This has become a big part of her life right now, and getting her treatment, and I think her family is a good support network for her, and her family is very understanding and helpful, and she has her times when I'm sure she's tired and needs to rest, and they pick up the slack and help her.
Celebrate with one survivor as he completes his treatment. Keep watching Louisiana Med.
Better to me means care focused on the patient as a person. They're not just a number or a name on a list. We're trying to get to know that person and work on a plan of care that is best for them.
Need to see a doctor fast? Lake Express Check-In lets you get in line online. Visit ololrmc.com/express to choose an estimated treatment time at one of our emergency room, urgent care, or physician office locations. A service of Our Lady of the Lake.
Being diagnosed with cancer is very difficult, no matter where it is or what the stage is. It's a heavy word, and it comes with many heavy implications for patients.
You have those days where you're down, where you're really down, and then somebody will pick you up.
Today I have with me Dallas, and Dallas is a golden retriever. Dallas loves his job, I tell people. He likes to be petted. We visit the patients with the dogs, and just giving them a little break from their normal routine of their infusions. So just bring a little joy into the facility.
The radiation, I guess the toughest part for me is wearing that mask. And they fit this mask over your head from day one, and I'm getting a lot better at it now, although tonight will be my 6th one.
Mr. Atkins has a very good outlook. The majority of stage 4A patients in head and neck cancer is curable. With the chemo and radiation, he will still have over 90% chance of cure.
It was very shocking and devastating for him to get this diagnosis, but he has been determined from day one to do what he needs to do to fight this.
My aspirations are to take one day at a time, and whatever I got to fight that day, I'm going to fight it, because I got a lot left to do on this earth that I need to do. So, yeah.
My treatment plan is I had to do 6 months of chemo. After today, I will have 1 more week of chemo left. Then I will have to rest for about 4 to 6 weeks. I will have a bilateral mastectomy. Then I will rest about another 6 weeks, and I will start radiation every day for 6 weeks. Once I heal from that, then we will do reconstructive surgery. So I have at least 6 months, maybe 9 months left on my journey. Yeah, Julie's been my nurse for at least the last 6 treatments. Huh?
Seems like it.
They do a flush after each treatment. It's just kind of flushes the tubes out. The Mediport is connected directly to my heart. And then they flush it to keep the blood from clotting in the Mediport. And so it can flow freely, do its job. The stuff they use for the flush, it smells bad and you can taste it in your mouth. So I always make sure I have gum or candy available. I feel like a bull. I'm just, with my head down, just barreling through the obstacles. Just fight to the end.
All right, Roxanne. How you been? All right, doing great. Yeah. My name is Juan Quiet. I'm 61 years old. I'm a preacher. I had been taking high blood pressure medicine, and my doctor prescribed some more, but he asked me when the last time I had blood work done. I told him it'd been about 2 years. And when I had the blood work done, when I went back to see him again, that's when he told me that my PSA was elevated, very highly elevated. And I said, doctor, what that means? He said, well, a PSA that high, it's a good sign you have cancer, prostate cancer.
Mr. Quiet was diagnosed with a prostate cancer based upon an elevated PSA. PSA is a screening test that's done to look for the possibility of prostate cancer. And so we recommend men have that.
When you say cancer, it sounds like that's your death sentence. That's why I called the family members, because I could say I didn't know how long, because he said it was the aggressive type cancer. And when you say aggressive, that means, to me, that you don't have too long if you don't get something done immediately. You always think about it happening to someone else, but when it happens to you, that's a big test of your faith there. And I kept my faith strong.
We talked about the fact that from all the tests that we have done, it seems that the prostate cancer was confined to the prostate region, that it had not metastasized, which is important because as long as the cancer has not metastasized, then it is still a curable disease. The
machine that they used was Versa. You had to go in and lay on the table, and they had the technician, they would have you situated. You had this little cradle that was made just for you, and each time you came, they used your personal cradle.
There's a device that helps them get back in the same position every day. the position that we used on the initial CT scan. The patient then is confirmed to be in the right position, and we compare that to the position he should be in based upon the initial CT scan. And then the table will shift to make sure that those two overlap precisely. That way, when the machine is turned on to deliver the treatment, we know it's going to the exact area that we outlined. At that point, it's a treatment that's delivered once a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and it's close to about 8 weeks total.
The treatment wasn't that bad. When you first look at it, it seemed like a lot of treatments, but it goes fast. Yes, indeed. I'm glad it's over with. I came to ring the bell.
I know. The survivor bell is one way that we mark or symbolize and celebrate the completion of the conventional treatment that's offered here. Cancer treatment generally follows a treatment plan or a set number of treatments that the patient gets. And we notice that our patients count those down. And when they reach that last treatment and have completed that, then they get to sound the bell. And everyone in the center or around them will clap and celebrate along with them. So it's a way that we celebrate. It's a huge accomplishment.
Thank God, the last one. Can I ring the bell? I'm glad that's over. I feel great now. When I call the kids and say, I beat cancer, hey, we got to do something. We're going to have a big cookout, and we're going to have a hallelujah good time. and we still having it. You know, every day I wake up, that's another celebration right there. To see another day. And you know, we don't realize how short life is, so we got to enjoy each day as it comes. Because life is short.